magazine. Also known as Wednesday 13. Welcome to Brutal Planet Magazine.
Welcome to Brutal Planet Magazine. This is all comfortable, but yo, welcome to Brutal Planet Magazine. You're listening to Brutal Planet.
Hey, what's up, everybody? CJ Pierce here from Drana Pool, and you listen to Brutal Planet Media right here. Get yourself.
Hey, I'm Steve from Within the Ruins, and this is Brutal Planet.
Greetings, Brutal Planet. We are live with Annie Davis, aka Trashy Annie. How are you doing?
Great. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you. To start, I noticed are you based in Austin?
Yes. Yeah.
So my brother lives there, and I have to run this by you because you're in Austin. Probably the only TV show I watch on a regular basis, like every week religiously, is Kill Tony. Do you know Kill Tony?
I don't know that. Should I know it?
Damn it. Okay. It's like a stand-up comedy thing in Austin, but I was just curious if you'd ever heard of it. It's really good.
I was hoping you were going to say something like Love is Blind or The Bachelor or something.
My son is actually watching that.
Love is Blind
with his girlfriend.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, Kill Tony's
but
like
it's so
a
fun.
stand-up. Yeah, it's like a stand-up thing where they pull names out of a hat, and it's just like it's so good, just for the people watching, because it's like, but it's all these different people in Austin. Anyway.
That's great. I'll check it out for sure.
Are you originally from Austin, or what's your origin story, kind of?
I was born in San Antonio, so hour and a half south.
You're a
of
Texas
Austin.
girl.
Yeah, and then grew up in Portland, in Oregon. So I moved up when I was a little nugget, 2 or 3, and parents split up when I was 5. Dad came back down to Texas, so I would spend summers down here with him, and then, but mostly grew up in the Oregon area. And then when I was, I don't know, late 30s, I was like, what am I doing here? It rains all the time. I had come down to do a triathlon in Austin, summer of 2011 or October of 2011, and it was 85 and sunny, and I was like, where has this been my whole life? So I went back and I packed my car and broke up with this guy I'd been dating for 4 years, and just came on down and kind of showed up on my dad's doorstep and said, here I am, I live here now.
That seems like such a big transition from Portland to Texas, but Austin is weird on its own in the similar ways that Portland is.
Very much a sister city kind of a thing, just much better weather down here. So yeah. It was a good transition, good move.
How long have you been down there?
Since 2011.
Oh wow, so for a while.
Yeah, long enough. There's been a lot of change that's happened. I think mostly in a good way, but yeah, I've been down here a hot minute for sure.
Awesome. So how did you describe to me your kind of journey into what you're doing now? Because I listened to the record, Sticks and Stones, this morning. I listened to it all the way through, and I there's a lot of it that I really like. There's a lot of vibe to it. I think I told someone this morning, and take this how you want it. Like, to me, it's a compliment, but I said kind of like a cross between like the Black Crowes meets Kesha is like, was my takeaway.
I have not heard that one, but I like that actually. That's great. Because I get some other weird ones. Like God, what was one? Somebody said something along the lines of, I can't remember who they crossed. It was like Sheryl Crow and Kid Rock and Loretta Lynn. You know, like a weird mix of people that are so far on so many different sides of the spectrum. But I love it because I feel like as an artist, it's cool to have a wide net, you know, and feel like you can write a stripped down acoustic tune or a big heavy rock song, or, you know, sort of everything in between. And for me, I have a lot of influences, and so it's cool to be able to feel like I can write something that's not just always one trick pony situation. But as far as how I got into all of this, so that the origin story on Trashy Annie, so I was a trumpet player as a kid. So I grew up super poor, food stamps, welfare, the whole all the shenanigans. And I decided that I really wanted to go to college, but I didn't know how I was going to pay for said college. So I decided real early on that I needed to teach myself some kind of a skill. And in my little fifth grade mind, being a musician was definitely a skill that was going to pay the bills someday. So I decided to so I decided to learn trumpet because that was what the school had as an instrument that I could use. And so I said, okay, I'm going to teach myself to play. And I did, and I just fell in love with it all. And so I ended up going to college on trumpet scholarship, and then got towards the end of school and was like, holy shit, what am I going to do with a music degree? I don't want to be a band teacher. I'm going to be right back on food stamps and welfare. So don't want to live in a van down by the river. So I decided to make a pivot and went a whole different direction and ended up getting out of music for 20 years or so, and then started a company and did a bunch of stuff in the world of biomechanics, actually. And then when COVID hit, I decided I had always wanted to play drums. That was the thing that when I was in fifth grade, I really wanted to play, but nobody, and I mean, nobody wants their kid to be a drummer. They're not like, oh yes, by all means, let's get you a kit, So I bought myself a drum kit for my Christmas present in 2019, and then started playing and started teaching myself, and I just loved it. Fell in love with drums, and then COVID hit, and so I thought, I want to learn to write a song because I had always been super afraid of the idea of singing in front of people. It was just this horrifying fear. I'd never done karaoke, like couldn't stand the idea of it. So I'm like, I'm going to conquer this thing and do one song at an open mic and just do the thing. So I bought a guitar, taught myself one chord, wrote a song with just the one chord because it's all I could play. And then went down to one of the few open mics at New World Deli in Austin that was still operating during COVID, and played my little song, and couldn't stand up and play guitar at the same time. Didn't even know you were supposed to have a strap on it. I remember it like sliding down my leg as I'm trying to do the thing. So anyway, bunch of whiskey, and one song later, I fell in love with songwriting. And I was like, this is the thing. I was a super introverted kid when I was little, and I used to write poetry all the time, and write poetry and play my trumpet. Those were my two loves as a kid. And so all that sort of came flooding back, and I was like, oh, I love writing music. So I got to learn how to sing if I'm going to do the thing. And so spent COVID just writing and writing and writing, and then started performing at whatever place would let me stand on their stage and do the thing, and put my first song out right after, I think it was sort of the end of 2020, if I remember right. That one chord song, Runnin', I put that out. I was like, as a trumpet player, I didn't even know what an XLR cable was, right? I was like, I don't know anything about production or how you put a song on Spotify or anything about anything. And so there was just a lot to learn. So I put that tune out, and that was my first song. And then fast forward a couple of years, and here we are.
So did you write all the stuff on the album by yourself?
Yeah. So I do.
Great.
That's my jam. I love writing. And then I've got these really cool guys that I work with out in Arizona, Jeff Lesby Brault and a guy named PH Nafa, who's the drummer for a band called Roger Klein and the Peacemakers, who used to be the Refreshments back in the day. And so anyway, they're just great producers, and they sit down with me and they kind of help me pull apart the tune and work on what it needs and what it may have too much of or too little of or whatever, and sort of craft the thing. So yeah, it's I've got a good team behind me, but yeah, I do all the writing. And actually I'm co-writing my first album this year, which I'm super excited about, because a guy named Tommy Price got a hold of my album and called me up and said, I want to write with you. And I was like, Tommy Price, this name sounds familiar. And I look him up, and sure as shit, he's been Joan Jett's drummer for 40 years and played with Billy Idol on Rebel Yell and like all the big shit. So anyway, so he and I are co-writing an album together, and I think it's going to be really great. I just finished tracking a second one with my Arizona guys as well, and I think it also kills. So I'm really excited about this year because there's going to be a lot of cool new music that comes out.
Did he hear the song where you said something about having a Joan Jett poster?
Yeah. Yeah, he sent it all over to Joan, so that's kind of exciting to think that she's got my
That's
music in her
cool.
house somewhere. Yeah, it's kind of a neat thing to think about that because I'm a huge Joan Jett fan. I'm just a huge 70s and 80s rock fan in general. I miss so much of that. I think we've gone this hard into the sort of electronica worlds with rock and roll, and I just miss some of the sweaty old 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s rock, and so I hope that we're sort of doing our part to keep that alive as a band. This next album has a lot of that kind of vibe on it, because it's where my heart really is, as a child of the 80s.
I talked to this band a couple weeks ago. They're younger guys. They're like early 20s, and the singer said something that I thought was so cool. He's like, "We think rock has lost its sloppiness and vulgarity, and like we want to bring that element back." And I was just like, "Yes, yes, it's way too clean and processed, and you know,
I love that. I'm definitely
yeah,
doing my part for the vulgarity part too. Those people are kindred spirits. But I agree. I mean, just kind of a little sloppy messiness to it, and we've just gone crazy with the auto tune and everything being sort of cut and paste out of Logic and all this. It's just I don't know.
yeah."
I miss the organic nature of what rock and roll used to be. And that's what we want to try to keep alive as best we can with what we're doing too. So glad to hear it's coming out of other people's mouths too.
Yeah, and I learned this recently too. I didn't know this until I recently was reading this book, and they were talking about how the term itself, rock and roll, is a euphemism for sex. Like that's where it came from, like rock and roll.
I love it. I didn't
Yeah,
know that either. That makes it even better.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because back in those, I
That's
was
great.
watching the thing. They were talking about Elvis. Like they would only film him from the waist up because it was like he moved his hips. It was so vulgar. It's like,
So
America.
vulgar.
Yeah,
Right. Don't
we've
show
come
your
a long
nipple.
way,
Yeah, we have.
but still so far to
Yeah,
go.
we have. Yeah, true, true.
So what would you say are like some of your biggest influences? I mean, you mentioned Joan Jett, but like are there any particular like musicians or artists that made you go, I really want to pick up a guitar, or I really want to write a song like that or anything?
You know, Actually, so when I started, and I think a lot of people start this way, most of them are not 44, most of them are 8. But I think a lot of people start with their acoustic guitar, and when they start to get into writing, if all you've got is you and your guitar, you kind of gravitate towards singer-songwriter-y kind of stuff. Because you're not shredding on the acoustic and coming up with these badass rock licks when you've only had your guitar for 6 months. So at least I wasn't. So I think I still don't. I still can't do that part. But I think listening to a lot of. I'm trying to think. I've had it spans the gamut as far as what I've listened to in my life. I love, like I said, I love all 70s and 80s stuff. I mean, I love the Stones and all of that type of stuff. I love the earlier stuff too, the Beatles and some of the 60s and early 70s influences. And I used to love Janis Joplin as a kid and like all that kind of stuff. But I've gone through my, hip hop and rap phases. I used to be super into NWA and I loved Eminem and just like a kind of a mishmash of stuff. But when I bought my guitar, I started listening a little bit more to singer songwriter and lyrically driven stuff. So there's a lady, I don't know if she still lives in Austin, but she's out of Austin, Patty Griffin, and she's got amazing just storytelling to her songs. And there's a guy by the name of Rustin Kelly that was for a while married to Casey Musgraves and kind of in that world. And same thing, just a lot of really lots of depth to their lyrics. And so when I listen to people like that, it makes me want to write stuff that matters. And I had somebody tell me the other day, was one of the best compliments I've had about my music. And she said, the smarter the person is, the more they like your music when I give it to them. And I thought, I love that because I do feel like I'm trying anyway to write rock and roll for smart people, stuff that has a little depth. It should have hooks and all the cool stuff that rock and roll is known for sure. But the lyrical depth in a lot of pop music and a lot of stuff that's coming out these days just doesn't speak to me at all. And so I want to contribute to some depth in songwriting. And so I think listening to so much singer-songwriter stuff has sort of brought that into what I write, even if it's a heavy rock tune. So at least that's sort of my view on my own writing.
Yeah, you mentioned Casey Musgraves, in I guess one of her exes or something, but
Yeah,
she's someone I'm not a big country fan, but she just writes such great songs in a
yeah,
similar way that you spoke about. Like, just it's really like intelligent, like witty, kind of like well thought out lyrics and stuff like that. And I pay attention to that kind of stuff. Some people don't, but
correct. And I think I'm the same. I don't love country necessarily either, but some of the storytelling of aspect of country is appealing to me. Sometimes we have heard our music called rock and roll with a country soul because it's just got some lyrical storytelling side of it to it that kind of comes from a country world. So I'm like you. I don't necessarily love country music, but I appreciate a good artist in any genre, you know.
yeah, and what you just described too, one of my favorite bands is the Black Crows, and they have I mean, they definitely have that country soul vibe, but
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
rock and roll. You know, the Amorica record is like one of my all-time favorite albums, just front to back. Like, it has just great songs, you know. So I definitely
Yeah.
appreciate that aspect of what
And
you're
I
doing.
I love when a band can sort of take you on a journey on an album. You know, that was something that we thought a lot about because we tracked more songs than, of course, made the album for Sticks and Stones. And when I sat down with all the tunes, the ones that I didn't put on that album were not because I didn't like how they came out. It was because I wanted to have some ebb and flow with that thing. You know, I want to hit people with some hard rock stuff like Bama or, God Save the Queen or whatever's on that thing, and then take them down for a little bit and tell a story and kind of make them feel something different and then come back. So I think I love when bands can do that because I do listen to a lot of albums. I love albums, again, child of the 70s and 80s when there wasn't streaming. And so you would listen to things front to back. And bands that put a lot of time into what they're putting out and how they take people on this journey on their album are so appealing to me because I just I don't have the ADD problem that I think a lot of people nowadays are like, I'll listen to two songs and then I'm out. I'm on to some other artist and then another artist and another artist. I love the journey. I love listening to the way that a band has designed an album. So I think that's cool when you talk about that aspect of, the album being cool front to back because there's not a lot of albums that you can say that about.
Yeah, and I think that mentality is kind of coming back in style. I talked to these German guys the other day, kind of like a more deathcore, like metalcore type band, and they were saying the same thing. And then we kind of related it to how like a Netflix show is, right? Where there's a season with like 13 episodes, but you can watch one episode on its own and really take stuff away from it. But then all together, it tells like a bigger story, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think you think about a band like Queen, and when they create a rock opera album where everything fits together in a bigger story and sort of a big show of what is on an album. I think yeah, I think it's very, very cool. So I hope that we continue to do that. And I know that everybody's releasing singles these days and from a keeping people with their little dopamine drip. I know that that's the way to do it as opposed to dropping full albums, but I still think there's a place in the world for the full album experience. And to your point, hopefully there's some of that coming back because maybe people have swung so far to the other end of the spectrum, they're kind of tired of that now. And I mean, we sell so many CDs, and I'm always shocked. I'm like, a CD? Like the kind you put in the do you even have a CD player? And a lot of people don't. And they still
It's so
want them.
hard to find them. Yeah.
I know. I know. So, hopefully we are kind of swinging back that direction where people are wanting some of the tangible product and some of the things that come along with music besides just streaming it and moving on to the next thing.
Yeah, I feel like it's a pendulum, and also the nature of modern music has kind of fostered that environment where, I mean, it's you go back to like early music, like songs were 2 or 3 minutes, but now it's kind of like I feel like the focus is really like we just got to get right to the chorus. And I was just watching this thing the other day. This guy Rick Beato, who's like a YouTuber that I really love, and he was playing like the hit songs from 1994. And he was playing like, he would play like this Bush song. And he's like, listen to this. This is like a minute intro. There's like a minute long intro in the song before they even start the verse. He's like, that's unheard of in today's music, you know?
Yeah. They wouldn't
But
make it. People are like, I got 12 seconds. I'm going to give this person. If they can't
yeah,
hook in 12 seconds, I'm out. You know,
right.
we should just start releasing choruses, 30-second choruses, and then just call it a day. You know,
Right. Yeah. It's like we don't even release songs anymore. We just make ad jingles.
exactly.
It's like a 30-second.
Weirdly, it might work. We might
Oh,
all
totally
get
work.
famous if we just start doing that. It's kind of fucked up.
Start a band called the Jingles, and it's like all of our songs are 30 seconds long.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
trademarking that. No one steal that. No,
Yeah.
I'm kidding. So the album's already out, so you're not really promoting the album, but I did read that you're promoting some, like the vinyl release.
Yeah, I mean, the vinyl just came into my hands the very, very end of the year, and that was a big moment because I remember being a kid and putting on vinyl on my mom's turntable and just listening to Simon and Garfunkel or, you know, James Taylor or whatever, and just sitting on the floor listening to vinyl. And the earthiness of the sound of vinyl is just such a great thing. And so getting my own music on vinyl, and especially, like I said, after years and years and years of this idea that I could never sing in front of anybody, I could never write a song, I don't know how to play guitar, like all of those things sort of culminating in, wow, I have a vinyl with my music and people are buying it. Like it's such a cool feeling, and it's been such a cool journey. So yeah, I just and we're still promotion of the album of Sticks and Stones, you know, as an indie artist who is learning to do all of this stuff. I'm signed to a label out of California called Cleopatra Records, but you know, aside from that, no matter what label you're on, you still have to do a lot of work yourself in promoting and figuring all that out. So I think with the album, that's just something I'm still trying to figure out. I don't even know how you get it in front of as many people as you need to get it in front of to, you know, get a hit these days, or make it, or whatever people are saying. But yeah, I think definitely promoting the vinyl is part of our current strategy. And then I've got a ton of new music coming out this year, so we'll be thinking about how to do that as well. Try to do a little smarter this time.
I didn't really look. Have you done many videos?
I've done I want to say 4 or 5, but I do them all myself, so you can see this progression. And in fact, I'll tell you real quick because it's an interesting segue. At least I think where the Trashy Annie name came from.
Oh,
So
great. I was gonna ask you that.
so my name's Annie Davis. So after I released that first song, Runnin', that one chord song, like I say, it was the end of 2020. Everything was still really shut down. I was like, well, I should make a music video because, you know, that's what the kids are doing these days. And so I was 44 at the time, I think that's right. And then so I made the music video myself with my iPhone, and it's super DIY looking. You can see the, you know, the shadow of the iPhone and like all the shots, and I'm like, you know, selfie style. But I was super proud of it because I'd never done anything like that before. I'm not techie at all. So, you know, even learning how to edit it and try to put it together as a freshman attempt at a video was a lot of fun for me. So anyway, I was really proud of the song and the process and all the vulnerability it takes to put your shit out in the world and all the things. And sure as shit, the first comment somebody made when I put that video out was some lady gets on there saying, "Aren't those clothes a little young for you?" You know, and I was like, So I decided, you know, I was kind of heartbroken for, you know, a short bit because when you put all of that out there and then that somebody's like, you know, that you give them the
Yeah.
opportunity to just thumbs down you from wherever they are, it's scary. And so I thought about it and I was like, yeah, she's probably right. What the hell am I doing? This is ridiculous. You know, who do I think I am? And then I was like, wait. Like, screw this lady. We should be able to
Mhm.
wear what we want. Why is age a thing? Who gives a shit? So I decided that was the time. I decided to name the band Trashy Annie and just lean into the whole thing. And so that's where the
What
band
you
name came
just
from.
described right there is why I love the show Kill Tony, because it's
Oh, great.
like these comedians that some of them are like, I mean, they're ugly, like some of them are they're weird people, but like Tony always, even if their comedy sucks, he'll interview them and like draw something interesting out of them, and they roast them, you know. But it's like you were saying, people are gonna respond how they're gonna respond, and if you're really into what you're doing,
Who
fuck 'em.
cares? Who cares? Fuck them. That's exactly right. Actually, my album we were talking about, it's called Sticks and Stones, and I love it, the album art,
Yeah,
because the album art is all of the back is all screenshots of the mean shit people have sent to me on social media in the last
I
year.
love it.
And like the irony of it, my favorite comment on the back of there is somebody wrote, "Stupid and offensive name." I was like, it's named the irony, right? It's named
Yeah.
because of people like you. So anyway, and then the front album art is just a big old glittery middle finger, and that's why I named it Sticks and Stones. So I think we can all choose to absorb the shitty things people say to us out there in the world, because it's not like when I was a kid, there was no internet. People couldn't do that to you, you didn't, or
Mhm.
they could, but you didn't know about it. They could shit on you all day long, but it wasn't public for you to see and absorb every day. So, we can choose to let that stuff in, or we can choose to just go our path and, stay on the journey that's best for us, and everybody else be damned. And so that's where I'm at with that at this point. And I love it.
Yeah.
I love what we're doing. And I think more people should start playing instruments at whatever stage in life they're in, because it's an amazing cathartic thing to write a song. Even if it never sees the light of day, sitting in my studio and writing music is one of the best things I've ever done with my life. I don't care that I just turned 48 this last month. Like, who gives a shit?
Oh
So,
wow. See, if you hadn't said that, I would have never guessed. I probably would have guessed you're in
because
your
I
30s or something.
because
So
I'm 48 going on 8.
yeah. See, I'm
So,
I'm 45, so I'm in the same mindset. Like,
yeah.
I've always been this person. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, since I was like
Mhm.
13, even
Yep.
before that. And it's
Yep.
like, I'm not gonna apologize for it anymore. I'm not gonna dress
No.
up in a corporate, tie and shit and try to pretend I'm someone I'm not. Like, I'm done.
Right. Right. I think we are swinging the direction of more acceptance. I think we have,
Definitely.
social media and the internet and all of the things have taken us down this really nasty road for a while. However, I think with a new generation of kids who are just okay being themselves, male, female, indifferent, whatever, all the things, we are learning to accept each other in a much healthier way than we probably ever have. And so, we're gonna have some growing pains along with all of this stuff, but I think we're going in a good direction on that side. So
Yeah,
I
and
hope
not to
anyway.
keep going back to the Kill Tony thing, but the other thing I love about that show or that attitude too, is it's like you can laugh at yourself. Like, people can say something funny about you, even if you're a great comic or like a superstar or just a regular person at the bar, and it's funny, and people can laugh at themselves and like take a joke, and they're like, people are making
Uh-huh.
racist jokes and homophobic jokes, and everyone laughs at them, and
It's
it's not a personal thing.
That's how South Park has made a bajillion dollars, right? We just
Yeah,
are offensive to everybody equally, and I
yeah.
love it. I love that concept. I think that we should all be okay and, with ourselves, and stop taking ourselves so dang seriously, and everybody else too, right? We're in this, if you can't, it's a laugh or cry situation, right? And you can always
Yeah.
choose laughter. So
So I
that's where my
love that.
head's
I
at with it.
love your origin story. I love that you took someone's like salacious comment and went, okay, I'm gonna wear that like a badge.
Yeah. 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 I hope it inspires other people to feel the same way about it, because it can be rather crushing if you let it, but just don't let it. It's okay. Who cares what those
Well,
people think?
and meanwhile, look, you've got a fan commenting from Sweden right here.
Oh, that's awesome. I love
So
it, from Sweden. I mean, that's another cool thing about the internet and where we've been able to go with all of this is, we reach people that we would have never met. I mean, one of our biggest streaming sources on Spotify is a place in Poland. It's just funny. It's called, I think it's called Billy's All American. It's like a chain of restaurants that apparently plays our music in their restaurants, because I think they think we're representative of America. Because if you look at their
I
website, it's
mean,
like a
as
it's like
much
a
as
Statue of Liberty and like all the things.
yeah,
It's like they're playing my songs about, hookers and blow and all the things. Like, I don't know if they understand it all, but I think but it's fun that, we reach people in areas where we never would have, without
hey,
the internet.
what other countries repping hookers and blow? I mean,
That's right. That's right.
maybe Italy. I don't know.
Right.
No, that's awesome. So are you have some tour dates this year too? Are you playing? I mean, you're probably not. Are you coming out this way to the West Coast at all? Or
Where are you located?
I'm in the LA area.
Oh, yeah, we'd actually like to come down through there. So we've got a tour. Let's see. We just came back from an East Coast swing. So we go out and play Hilton Head, Savannah, Atlanta, that whole area, Nashville, come down through Nashville. And then we go next month, we go up to the Northeast. So we'll be up in Boston, New York area. And then in May, we come over, we play Nevada City, California, which is up
Oh, okay.
outside of Sacramento. And then we're going
Yeah,
to come
that's up north,
down
a little more north.
through Cali. Yep, we're gonna come down through Cali because we have dates in Phoenix, Tucson, and Rocky Point, Mexico, the tail end of that week, and so we'll cut down through California, and the hope is to get something kind of in the LA area, maybe even San Diego, and fill those dates, and then head over to the Phoenix and Tucson shows.
Awesome. We'll
So
hope to
yeah,
catch
we
you live if you get out
got some
there.
good tours plans. Yeah, that would be really really great.
I was in Austin in 2017, I think, for South by Southwest, and I didn't
Yeah,
even have tickets to South by Southwest, but I had such a killer time just with like the off, event shows. There's like so many musicians and so much stuff going on in town. It was just like such a party in
yeah.
general.
It's an insane week. We're actually coming up on it next week. So the music stuff will be happening here next week. And we not I think it maybe it was last year. I think last year we toured during this week because I was like, I don't want anything to do with South by because having been someone who's lived here for the last decade, South by can
Yeah.
be it's a lot, right?
Hmm.
But we got so many gig offers last year and we were touring, I couldn't take any of them. So I thought this year we're gonna stay and yeah, we're stacked up for South by stuff this next week. So it's a good time. I mean, it brings everybody together in a really fun way over music. And music's such a human connector. Any kind of art brings people together in a way that nothing else does. And so I think from that perspective, South by is a really, really cool thing.
I have to just share this because I think you'll appreciate it. I have this really clear memory of like it was like 11 a.m. and I was walking through 6th Street and it, like it's starting to fill up. Like, it's pretty early because it was just the streets were just starting to fill up, and there's this guy just like bending over and yakking into a garbage can, and I was just like, this city knows how to party. It's just like at 11 a.m. This guy's
11
already
a.m.
this guy's already
It's one
had
of
it.
my it's one of my favorite things about running in Vegas because I'm a runner. That's what I did before I got back into music. That company I mentioned was running biomechanics called Run Lab. So
Oh,
anyway,
okay.
but so I run a lot. So when I go to Vegas, I'll
We're gonna
run
have to
first
talk
thing
a
in the
little more about
morning.
that.
Yeah. So when I go
Keep
to
going.
Vegas, I'll run first thing in the morning, and you're hopping over guys in their ties, passed out on the sidewalk, and piles of barf everywhere. But it's just so fun. I was
Oh,
like,
that's
man, we had a great
amazing.
night last night. Yeah, yeah,
Vegas is crazy. I had like one of
I
those nights
know.
where I came out of a building and I was like, holy shit, the sun's back up.
Yeah, I know. It's a vortex, that place, man. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's fun.
So let's talk about the running thing because that's interesting to me. So running
Yeah,
biomechanics, like go into the weeds a little bit with that.
yeah,
Like, what's that all about? Because I run myself. I'm
sure.
not probably as much as you, but like maybe I'll do like 5 miles, like 2, 3 times a week.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I run every day for mental health more than anything else. Since I got into music, I don't race like I used to. But I've done a bunch of Ironmans and 12 to 72-hour adventure races and all kinds of stuff. So the reason I got into all of that was back in my 20s when I was kind of pivoting away from the music world and going down the pre-med path. I started running because I wanted to do a triathlon, and as part of that process really fell in love with being active. And I'd come from a family that's diabetic and hypertension, and my dad died of cancer and all these things, and so I really wanted to do something to get healthy. Started running, training, fell in love with it, but I kept getting injured over and over and got frustrated with it. And so I thought, man, there's got to be somebody to look at my running and tell me what I'm doing wrong, and I just couldn't find anybody. And I thought, well, this is kind of horseshit. If I'm having problems when I run, it can't just be the doctors would just tell me don't run. It's bad for you. I'm like, well, I'm 25 or whatever, this is silly. So I had all my pre-med done and I decided, I was like, screw it, I'm going to go this road. And so did this big old pivot, ended up going to chiropractic school after never been to a chiropractor, but I knew I could learn as much as I could about biomechanics going that route. And so I did, and then got out and started a biomechanical analysis company called Run Lab, and we're based here in Austin, and we've helped, I don't know, tens of thousands of runners at this point from all over the world work on their running biomechanics so that they don't get injured when they run. Or I mean, we've worked with Olympic gold medalists and all those types of people as well, but everybody from that side of the spectrum to kids with Down syndrome or cerebral palsy, because it's always just about helping somebody learn about their own body and moving the way that they should move in relation to their structure, not just being told that there's some right way to do it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how the company got started. And it was really to help myself. And I thought, if I can help myself, I can help anybody. Because like I said, once I figured out all my own biomechanical issues and worked on all the problems I was having, I haven't had a running related injury and since then, since my 20s. And I've done, like I said, Ironmans and long ass races and all kinds of things. I used to run 90 miles a week and no injuries, just because I
Yeah.
was doing it right, you know? So I
Yeah.
thought, if I can help myself, I can help anybody, because I was not a good runner as a kid. It's not like I ran as a kid or anything. So anyway, that's how I got into it. And I still have the company, and I'm able to run it remotely. So I'm able to do full-time music. So it's kind of a burning the candle at both ends, but it's so great. I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way, because I love the biomechanics stuff as much as I love music. And so it scratches both sides of the brain.
Yeah. No, you said something that stuck out to me too, because that's one of the reasons I got into you know, running is mentally, like I would get depressed. And I read this book
Yeah.
where I can't remember who it was, but they're like, people don't think about how your mind and body are physically connected. Like if someone's depressed, you can see it. You know, they slouch,
Yeah.
they manifest it in their body. So if you do things with your body to make yourself feel, you know, invigorated, and that it helps a ton. And yeah, so
Yeah. That's one of the best ways to deal with depression, is just getting outside and moving your body. I mean, it releases endorphins. It has so many positive effects. And I think that part of the reason, because I run hot as far as energy goes, but I think part of that is just because I get outside every day. And even if I only run for 20 or 30 minutes, I go out every day and do it. I mean, we'll be on tour and it's like, oh fucking God, we got it, 3 in the morning. And I'm like, let's go, Blake. He's my lead guitar player. And let's fucking go. We're going out the door and doing it, because, that's how we have some semblance of normalcy on the road, is continuing to stay active and try to eat as best we can, even though you know how hard it is to keep your normal routine on the road. But I do think exercise is the most important thing in life. I think we all need it so much for
yeah.
mental health and physical health as well. So that's what we're doing with Run Lab, is just trying to keep people moving.
As a singer too, like keeping your respiratory health in check, and like it's so
Yeah.
important.
Well, and I even think about it, when I first started, kind of after COVID, I was, like I said, I didn't know anything, right? So I couldn't even stand up and play guitar at the same time. And so I had to learn that. And then once I started learning how to do that, I'm like, well, now I got to try to move around a little bit. I'm like, oh, but I'm out of breath and I can't, so I thought, okay, I have to think about my running and my fitness for being on the stage, because I don't want to be a boring performer. I want to be somebody that moves around and is dynamic and can still. So that's part of it now too, is just staying fit for the stage, because I think it matters.
Yeah. Oh, we talk about this a lot actually. There's a, I don't know if you know the band Typo Negative, but Peter Steele, the guy from Typo Negative, had this thing where he's like, if you're a musician, like part of your job is looking good for your audience, like part of you as a performer, you know. So
It's so
not even just
true. I talk about this with my guys all the time, because there are so many bands that just stand up there, and they might be great musicians, but they just stand up there and play, and you could almost take a picture and it'd be the same at the beginning as it is at the end. And that's just not, to me, that's not a rock show. It's a performance for sure, but I want to go where people are moving around the stage and engaging with the audience. And my guitar player's got long hair, so I love it when he's flipping his hair all around and stuff. I mean, it's just, that creates energy from the audience, and then we feed off of each other. We just played a show in Savannah, Georgia, actually, that was one of the funnest shows we've ever played. It was this warehouse that I had very low expectations for, admittedly, going in, because I was like, I don't know what to expect. They don't really have a website. It doesn't describe what this place is like at all. And we show up and it feels like we're going into a post office. And then we kind of wind around to the back and there's boxes everywhere. And it's this big kind of, I don't know, warehousey looking facility. And then I see the stage and I'm like, oh, these guys, there's huge subwoofers as big as me, like lined across the bottom and all the things. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a good night. And sure as shit, all these college kids showed up and were just raging, and like when you get a mosh pit that's breaking out to your like country rock song, you're doing something right. But it's the idea of the energy from the crowd feeding off of us on the stage and vice versa. So it's a bit of a marriage during a show, and you need each other. And so I think having the fitness to be able to put on a performance like that, and regardless of age, it really matters. So, to circle back around to that, I do think the fitness piece is important for the show.
So we got a question in the chat, and I'm going to post it up because it's my cousin Eric, who's co-owner. He says, "What's your favorite music to run to?"
It varies a lot, and I actually don't run to music as much as I used to because I'm immersed in it all the time. So sometimes I need just some quiet space to think. So nowadays I sort of run with intention of sort of thinking and solving problems in my head versus listening to music. But the biggest thing from a nerdy biomechanics perspective is you want to run to something that has a cadence that's going to keep you moving at a pace that's not, and I don't mean a pace like speed wise, I mean a cadence, how many beats, how many times per minute you land, that's going to keep you turning over pretty fast, because that tends to prevent actually a lot of injuries, which I won't bore everybody with. But so when I think about music to run to, I want something that's got a fast cadence, because that's going to keep me moving fast just naturally, because being a musician, I'm kind of tied into the beat, right? And so if you run to something that's kind of slow and groovy, it becomes easy to sort of run slow and groovy, even if your speed is the same. Your legs are not turning over as fast, and then that can lead to some knee problems and stuff. So that's like the kind of nerdy biomechanics answer to what I would run to. But if you're just asking what's fun to run to, I mean, I love running to Eminem. I like K Flay a lot. She's got some really cool stuff to run to. There's lots of just heavier stuff. I think is more fun for me to run to, because it amps me up.
On that biomechanics subject, I just read this book recently called Breath about nose breathing. And I was always one of those people who, like, I never really paid attention to that. And then over the last few months, I've gotten to the point where I only nose breathe when I run and stuff. And it's like, even that's changed me, because I get into like a rhythm, like you were saying with the music, but it's almost like I kind of set my breathing pace, and then I set my rhythm based on my breathing pace, like a comfortable breathing pace,
Yeah, it's there's a whole science behind that. And that's one of the things that they recommend if people are struggling with side aches, stitches, that kind of a thing, is working on tying your breathing to your cadence and learning how to exhale all the way and take a good breath in. But breathing from your diaphragm, being a horn player as a kid, I always learned to breathe from my belly. So when I tell somebody to take a deep breath and they raise their shoulders up, you're like, you got to take a breath from the abdomen. But if you've never been a musician, you don't always learn that just out in the daily world. So I love that you're reading about that, because that concept has been tied to a lot of things when it comes to efficiency and dealing with some of the problems people have when they run.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. I even tape my mouth shut when I sleep now to force myself to nose breathe, because this guy has like this. It's like such a good book. He talks about like Wim Hof and those free divers that can like be underwater for like 10 minutes without breathing.
Yeah.
And they do it all through, and it's just incredible book. So highly recommend if anyone's interested in that. But
totally unrelated, but the free diving thing made me think about, there's a documentary out there. Did you ever watch My Octopus Teacher?
Someone just mentioned that recently on like my Facebook, was like, you have to see this.
It's so good. And it's about a guy who goes out and is free diving kind of as a way to deal with some personal shit. And he goes out and I forget where it is, Thailand or somewhere, but he lives right on the ocean and starts diving every day and learning how to hold his breath longer and longer and longer. and he befriends this octopus, and it tells the story of these two. You should watch it. It's so cool. And
Oh, I love it
I just
already.
thought the free diving thing was really neat too, because I didn't realize people could hold their breath as long as they can. But to your point, they train themselves and can do stuff that just seems almost superhuman. But yeah, it's a really good movie. You got to watch it.
Don't even get me started on like octopi in the ocean. Like we had this whole conversation about how like we know more about space than we do the ocean. Like have
I
you
know.
seen like some of the weird stuff they found like at the bottom of the ocean? It's like scarier than anything from like an alien movie.
I am most terrified of the giant squid. I feel like the giant, if I were to choose one way that I don't want to die, it's by giant squid because those things are horrifying looking. And to
Oh
your
man.
point, there's stuff down there that we don't even know, that's like prehistoric kind of shit that we, never comes up because it doesn't need to. So yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, they're like evolving lights and stuff down there and like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a whole
it's
nother
crazy.
podcast in itself. It's talking
Right,
about some
yeah.
of the
We're getting like
stuff
way
that
off
we don't
topic here.
understand. Yeah, still fun though.
Well, I don't want to keep you too much longer. I really appreciate you taking the time, and the album's great. I highly recommend it. It's a good rock and roll album with a little bit of
Thank you.
country vibe too.
Mhm.
I think the storytelling thing, like I said, I got just to kind of break down my whole thing. I love the Black Crows, and it had that kind of country rock vibe. But then I think the lyrical content reminded me a little bit of Kesha because she just has that like I don't give a fuck, like I'm a woman, I'm gonna do my thing attitude, and you got kind of like that attitude too. So.
Thanks for saying that. I actually appreciate that reference. I think that's really cool.
I love
And
her.
a
She had
cool mishmash of two bands that are awesome. So
she's
yeah,
an
thank you.
incredible songwriter too. A lot
Yeah.
of people don't know this, but like I mean, I'm a big fan of like pop music, so I listen to like Lady Gaga and Britney Spears and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Lana Del
Yeah.
Rey, I love. But Kesha wrote a couple of like hit songs for Britney Spears. So she's like, and like I love that about like her and Gaga. Like too, Gaga was like ghostwriting for like the Pussycat Dolls before she like became famous on her own. So all that stuff, I love like low key like just like songwriter shit like that. So
I didn't know that, and I love that too, because I think Lady Gaga and Taylor Swift and some of these people are examples of how to do pop music right.
yeah,
One, they can sing, they can put together a really hooky song, they have lyrical depth. I think when you're talking about there's so much crap out there, but when you're talking about who's really doing it and doing it well, like those guys you mentioned are all people that are doing pop right. That's the kind of pop music we want in the world, not so much of the other bullshit that has nothing to it. It just is.
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, 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 yeah.
Taylor gets a lot of hate these days, but I want to say for the record, she's a fucking gangster. Like
She
the
is.
stuff that she's doing right now, I think it's so brilliant. She like the label like owns her old album, so she's like, I'll just fucking record them, bitches,
Do my own
and then
thing.
I can collect all the yeah. I'm like that is brilliant. Like, and I've seen a lot of other bands kind of follow suit on that, and I'm like, not maybe they're not doing it for the same reasons, but like I just thought that was I'm like just as a business person
Yeah.
musically, that's fucking hardcore. That's so badass.
I love it too. And I think for me, coming from, you know, leaving music for 20 years or whatever, coming back, going into the business world, starting a company, growing the company, looking at everything with a business lens, and then coming back to music, I'm like, the hell are y'all doing? Like there's no business sense in this music world. What are we doing? And so when I start to look at, I think that's why we've even had the amount of success we've had so far in a relatively short amount of time is just because I enjoy the business side of it. So when I see stories like that and I see somebody kind of understanding how to play the game from a business perspective, I'm so impressed and appreciative that they're thinking about that. I mean, you don't get that big if you're not thinking about it at all, but
Yeah,
it still is something that I can look at and appreciate that they're putting the time into the business because I think there are a lot of musicians that are very talented and write very good songs and are, amazing and don't want to deal with the business side, and that is just going to hamstring you because you can't not, especially nowadays. You can't just hand all that off. You have to be involved in your own business, and if you really want to make it as a musician, and I mean make it is different for different people, but if you want to make
sure.
money as a musician, you cannot ignore the business side. So yeah,
Yeah,
anyway, that's all to say I'm with you because I love seeing stories like that when musicians and artists are able to figure out their own path on the business and not just believe that everybody's going to do right by them.
Yeah.
'Cause
I mean, so many of the bands I talk to, just to give one great example, Josh Todd from Buck Cherry, like that's a guy who is such a hustler. Like they have those hits from a couple years ago that they can do book every, put an album out every couple years and book a like 50 city tour. And that guy told me straight up, he's like, I got crew to feed. I got,
Yep.
and so he's like, I'm hustling, like, and I totally
I
respect that.
I
So
love them.
back to you too.
We were just talking about, I don't cover very many songs, but we have the occasional cover, and we were just talking about throwing Crazy Bitch into the mix because it just fits so well, and also I just love
Oh
it.
yeah,
So
that'd be dope.
that's awesome. I know, right?
I
So
would love to hear a woman do a cover of that song. That would,
I think so too. I'm in for it. So I think yeah, we're working on it right now, so we'll see how it goes.
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Scoop. Plus,
Yep,
it kind of fits your aesthetic too. I get that. Like
it does.
my name is Dustin, and like in high school, people called me Dustin Road Grimes or like Dirty Dustin, Dirty D, like because I was like a
Nice.
stoner type. So I
Yeah,
totally vibe with that.
that's great, right? Like you gotta
Yeah,
gotta stay on brand as
like
best you can.
wear it like a badge. Yeah,
Hookers blow, crazy bitch. Perfect.
awesome.
Well, thank you so much for your time. This has been awesome, and
Yeah, great
hopefully we'll.
conversation, great music. Everyone check out Annie's album Sticks and Stones. It's on Spotify, Apple Music. Order the vinyl. It's also the kind of record that would sound incredible on a record player because it's very raw, like
Yeah, it's
music.
pretty cool on vinyl. I like how it sounds on vinyl more than anything else, probably. So yeah,
Yeah, and come back through and talk to me again when you got something new coming down the pipeline. And
I'll bring Tommy
what-
with me. We'll talk next
please
time.
do.
He's a cool cat, man. I'm sure he's got some stories. So yeah,
Doors always
he's
open.
great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Take care of yourself, Annie. Great to meet you.
All right, see ya. Bye.
All right, everyone. As I said, that's Trashy Annie. Check out her album Sticks and Stones. It's a great kind of like country rock record. A lot of great songs on it. Couple that will stick out to you, regardless. And we'll be back tomorrow. God, we got a lot of great guests this week. I think Bisto Blanco is coming back. Coming on Friday, I believe. Wait, don't let me fuck this up. I think Bisto Blanco might be tomorrow. Anyway, I'm just gonna yap. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Keep it brutal.